myself a therapist because I don't have that qualification. However, our programs work beautifully with youth at risk and people that have had post-traumatic stress syndromes and all of that. But so the programs are the programs, but the results have a therapeutic value.
That's pretty fascinating. There's someone I probably should connect you with who works with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Well, that's what got me into it in the first place, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Look, we keep on going away from and talking about the horses and going to Western Australia and coming back with 2 horses and then talking about Mantanya, and we didn't get to find out what happened to her.
So unfortunately, Mantanya had really tough feet in WA, and over there the flies were quite severe, and she actually got a puncture on one of her hooves, and because her hooves were so tough, something went into the soft part inside and got a nasty infection, and she went lame for a little while and then came good again, but then the infection just kept on going inside. Normally, a normal horse, it would have erupted out, like it just would have abscessed out somewhere, but her feet were so tough, it just stayed completely internally and ended up infecting her joint, and she had to get put down. And she was 7 years old, and at that stage I was working with her at liberty. So what at liberty means is that you can communicate with the horse at a distance without any lead rope or halter attached. So I could communicate with her in an arena to go around that barrel or to come back to me, to go out, change between a walk, a trot or a canter, go sideways, simply from my body language without any ropes. And that was probably the most perfect partnership and harmony that I will have ever gotten to. It was just amazing. And when if ever she got scared, even there was one time where Bernie went down and turned on the sprinklers, and the 3 horses were quite close to one of the sprinklers, and they took off because they got a fright from the sprinklers splitting and coming out really quickly, and they came to a corner and Mantanya didn't have anywhere to go, so she literally jumped out of the paddock over the fence. You know, she either was going to run into it and do damage, but she had the physical, she was very physical horse, had the physical ability to jump out. And then the other horses ran off in the opposite direction and she was left there all by herself. And you could see that to a horse, being by itself is the ultimate vulnerability.
Wow.
And she was standing there shaking, and all the body language things was, oh my God, I'm going to get eaten by a mountain lion. And I had seen this happening from about 50 metres away. So I just called her name, and she looked over to me and just ran straight up to me and stopped dead and said, save me, save me. And it's like, okay.
It's a bit like humans, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't think about it. Well, I've never thought about horses almost being human-like or have the feelings like a human does, but I suppose animals do, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly have attachments.
Yes.
And loyalty.
Yes, absolute
so she
loyalty.
Horses have loyalty to the herd, but they can have loyalty to the human, but you have to prove it first. It's like any kind of trust and respect.
Absolutely.
You have to work at getting it, and there's a very fine line to keep it.
Absolutely.
And it needs to be consistent. So that's what we learn as humans from the horses in the programs that we run.
Fantastic. So you run day programs.
Yes.
I'm still going to backtrack again.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you had to have her put down, which is absolutely devastating.
Yeah, ripped my heart out.
Oh.
At 7. She was in her prime, yeah.
Oh, that's
it was
pretty
absolutely horrible. And it was, I had been querying it with the vets because I had the medical background.
Yes.
And I'd been querying it, and they said, no, it'll be fine. And I'm going, no, you should be doing something else now. So, yeah, we had a bit of a
disagreement,
to put it politely. And, yeah, I wouldn't want it happening to anyone else ever. It was, really horrible, unnecessary experience. So, so we came back with
2 horses.
2 horses, her mother and Bernie's horse, Sunday, who I had also started working with. So Sunday was a horse that everyone thought was very pig-headed, and stubborn. But what it was she was super sensitive. So in autism, kids are super sensitive,
yes,
to stimulus. Well, she was like that. Highly intelligent, highly athletic. She could jump 6 foot from a standstill. She was amazing. And very sensitive. So if you asked her too hard or asked her to do something too hard, her survival technique was just to shut down. She would just go catatonic. She just wouldn't move and shut down. And you could, we didn't, but, it was almost as if you had to hit her over the head with a 4x2 to actually get her out of that state.
Mm. It was a fear.
It was just shut down. This is what she had to do to protect herself from the overstimulus.
Yes.
So
it's
I had
like
worked that out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We do that, don't we?
If you ask too hard, if you push too hard, you're going to get pushed back or nothing.
Nothing.
You have to, and this is also what the horses teach us, is to start asking at the softest point and then intensify up. But you have to go through the levels. You can't just have a predisposed idea about a person and their responses.
No.
So ask them at your maximum assertive level.
You can't make a judgment and then assume.
Yeah.
You have to go through the processes and have the consideration along the way.
Ask them nicely, then get a little bit more assertive and more assertive until you get to the point where they clear. But if you come in at too high a level, then you're just going to get, pushback or no response or a negative response.
It's just the same as humans. I mean, if you come in at a too high level and you're telling people, do this, do that, do this, do that, they're eventually just going to shut down and say, sorry, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
And just not do it.
Yeah. So Bernie's horse was super sensitive, but we did have a war of strengths at one stage, because she really tested your leadership first before she would allow you to do anything with her. And she would just push all your buttons to see what you would do. And if she had decided that you weren't a good leader, she wasn't going to listen to you anyway. So she'd just go, "No, you can ask me anything you like. I'm just not going to do anything."
You can just go jump.
Yeah, and I actually thought, she was only, how some dogs are male dogs, and some dogs are good with females.
Yeah.
I thought she was just a man's horse,
And she wasn't at all.
She wasn't, and she ended up being really good with me, almost better than Bernie himself.
Now you're talking about her like she's in the past.
Yes, she was killed in the Black Saturday bushfires, as was Enya, the mother of Mantanya. Mm-hmm. They were both killed there, which is unfortunate. We do have one survivor, Duke. And we did have another survivor, which is a pony. No, that's Mantanya that I lost in WA.
Oh, right, okay.
Duke is our survivor from the Black Saturday fires.
Mantanya? Wow. Wow.
And Duke is...
Is this Duke?
That's Bernie's new horse, Music. She reminds me very much of Sunday that we lost in the fires. And Indy is a retired senior schoolmaster. Well, I call him a schoolmaster. He was actually a Western pleasure horse. But
That'd be my horse.
He's a grumpy school teacher, He demands absolute accuracy. He won't accept anything but spot on. It's
so you wouldn't give that horse to just anyone?
I normally ask the participants to choose their horse, because there's some things that are just meant to be. And although it depends what the human needed to do. If there was if I was working with a teenager who was quite grumpy, I would probably put in with Indy, see what it's like to actually be with someone grumpy.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
and
always,
experience it.
Yeah.
Really get the feel of it.
Whereas Duke, after he went through, he was quite neurotic before the fires.
Right.
And he was second last in our herd of 4.
Right.
So Bernie's horse Music was the lead mare. Enya was the next one. Then Duke, and then Sugar. So we don't have Sugar on in there.
Yep.
But so he was the third out of the four, and he lost it to more senior horses or more higher up horses. So he was completely off his tree because he had no leader. And he was totally insecure. I talk about separation anxiety. And the pony was severely burnt, probably almost 50% burns, which was really horrific. They both went to Kilmore.
Right.
Maxine at Kilmore. I can't remember the name of the vets, but I'm forever indebted to them to look after both of them. And Duke had plastic surgery because he had been hit in the face with a piece of flying corrugated iron, which slashed him from the nose to right underneath the cheekbone to up behind the eye, and his face was kind of all skewiffed because all the cut. But how's this for amazing? The corrugated iron was boiling hot, so it cauterized the cut.
Wow.
So there was no bleeding. There was no blood, which was lucky.
Wow, because he could have bled to death.
I doubt if he would have bled to death from the face, but yeah, it definitely would have been a lot messier. And flies and everything else, whereas he didn't have anything like that.
Wow, he was very lucky. So what about, besides losing horses and having horses that were severely burnt and damaged within the fires, you lost your home?
Yep. Yeah, I lost my business. I had also a singing and performing business on the property. And I'd also stopped, basically retired from science the week before the fires. January 29th, 2009, I retired from science to do presentation skills and body language and voice and performance coaching.
It was meant to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the week before. And then the week, a couple of weeks later, I was due to start the first choir up in Kinglake in our studio, but that was all burnt down as well. So lost everything but one car.
One car. So have you replaced your home yet?
Next question.
Did you have insurance?
Yes, we did have insurance. So the whole kind of thing about, all these millions donated and everything else, yes, we have received money to get this, that and the other thing. Yes, we were insured. However, so it was the equivalent of about 4 or 5 suburbs being destroyed.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of buildings in there. And you've heard of supply and demand raising prices.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So builders were hard to come by. The price of fencing, I had just priced fencing and a new shed about a month or 6 weeks before the fires. Fencing before the fires was $8 a metre, farm fencing.
Right.
After the fires, within 2 weeks, it was $24 a metre.
How can it go up like that?
Supply and demand.
That is just pure greed and disgraceful.
And, sheds kind of tripled in price as well. So many things tripled in price. So we were insured for so our insurance would have covered us if it didn't have that en masse effect where everything needed to be replaced by everyone at the same time.
Yes.
So prices went up. And it took us 6 months to battle the insurance company to get the release of funds. And there's a lot more than anyone can ever imagine the hurdles to go through. We went through one court case with our first shed.
First shed.
Yes. We purchased a shed and we asked them could they build it for us because we didn't have the skills, the time, or the enthusiasm to do it. And they budgeted the build at the right price, which because I'd done checks and everything else, and $6,500, and I had to go over to, so there was nothing on the property except for we got a shipping container on the property to store goods and materials because theft was riot. So the day we got the materials for the shed delivered,
they weren't stolen.
No, I was there. And I had about 4 different utes pull up and have a look around. And luckily I'd say, can I help you? And then they'd, oh no, wrong address.
Oh, right.
That was happening left, right and centre. So it wasn't just, I say to someone, when I talk about it, I say, I ask people to close their eyes, and I suggest to them, imagine that you are driving home from wherever you are now back to home, and that might be about 3 suburbs away. And maybe in the next suburb, the environment changes dramatically to how it was when you left that environment this morning. So it basically looks like War of the World has been through, and there's just smouldering bits and pieces there. And this is a suburb before you get to your place. So then your mind starts wandering and going, oh my God, what am I going to find? And and you get to your place, and there's just a smouldering mess there of corrugated iron and steel and everything else there. And it's like, and then imagine living in that environment, being in that blackened environment for the next several months, and having to deal with no power,
no water,
very little water. You had to be very precious with the water. We were lucky some of our water tanks survived. We were told not to drink the water out of the water tanks, but we were pretty happy with ours, because it could have been contaminated with ash and soot and all sorts of things. I had the added responsibility of 2 injured horses to look after, and the vets would come around every second day to give them painkillers for the burns. And just trying to get your head around, in our street there were 17 houses before the fires, and there were 6 left standing.
So where did you live?
We lived in the neighbour's house, or we were house hopping with friends' houses. One other friend that a property survived. So it's not just one house burning down in the street. It's,
a whole community.
A large proportion of your entire suburb burning down. And imagine in your mind's eye, if you can, what that looks like.
I can't imagine it.
And driving out of that, if you still had a job, which Bernie did, driving out of that each morning to go to work, and then how that would play on your mind when you were driving back into it that night. And that's when I saw.
How do you deal with that emotion?
All different ways, and massive marriage breakdowns, family breakdowns, suicides as a cause of it, because having to go into the normal environment, which is fine, that's all honky-dory, then going back into that environment is very, very depressing. And basically camping for the next 6 weeks or something. We probably waited 5 weeks before we had power put onto the neighbour's house where we were sharing with them. They didn't have any kids. And we didn't need fences for the horses because they were just hanging around. They were in shock and injured, and everything weren't going very far. The pony deteriorated quite quickly, so we had to get her off the mountain. Huge amount of gratitude to all the volunteers that came up with floats and medicines, and the vets that came up, and all of that. It was just mind-blowing how generous they were, and yet soul-destroying when you saw all the other lowest of life kind of trying to rip you off left, right and centre. So that was, that's what you have to deal with on a daily basis for the next 3 years, basically.
Okay, we're coming back. We'll be back.